In this lecture, I'm going to demonstrate how to win with a rook and king versus a king. This is one of the most important elementary endgames. Alright, so the first step we see here, the king is close to this side of the board. So we want to try to prevent him, the king, from reaching this third rank and force him down to this rank right here. In order to do this, we're going to use the rook. We then later bring the white king closer to the action. Now the problem here is that this rook can't get to this square because the king guards it. Normally, if the king were on a square like say c2, we could bring the rook down to the e3 square in order to prevent the king from getting to this third rank. So in this case, what we're going to have to do is we're first going to have to move the rook over to where it can easily penetrate to this third rank. So the first step is we're going to move the rook over to this square here. Now the king can come up now. Now we have to try to prevent the king from approaching this rank in order to force him down to the first rank. So we're going to play the rook here. Now the king is going to try to stay on this rank. Notice if the king were to move down a rank, we could simply move the rook down, and that would prevent the king from approaching this rank. So in order to get the king farther down, we're not going to be able to use the rook anymore. Any simple checks are simply going to drive the king up the board, which isn't where we want the king to go. So now we're going to have to bring our king into the action. So we play king to e6. Now this black king has nowhere else to go but move back and forth along this rank. So if king d3, we simply bring our king closer to the black king. Now the king will move somewhere else again. And now this is the most important part of the rook endgame. How can we get the king to move down to this rank? Well, simple rook checks aren't going to do the trick. If the rook comes here to a3 check, the king can simply escape. So what we have to do is we have to get a position where the king is in opposition with the black king, white king in opposition with the black king, and then be able to play the rook check, because now the white king will guard these three squares and the rook will be checking on this rank, so the king will be forced down to this rank. So how can we do this? If we play the king over here right now, the black king will just escape again and will be in the same position. So what we have to do here is we have to play a waiting move with the rook in order to force it to be black's turn to set up the position we're trying to achieve. So our first step is simply to play the rook over to here. Now notice that the black king plays here. We set up the position we want with the rook coming down check and the king guarding these three squares, preventing intrusion on this rank. Notice how this rook is now checking the king, and the king is now guarding these squares that were previously guarded by the rook along this rank. So obviously the king can't come back to the d3 square, because then the rook check and the king will be driven back down to this rank. So the king has to come over here. If the king moves here though, we simply bring our king over. King can't move back because of the rook check, so the king has to go here. Our king comes over one more time, and now the king is forced to either move back down to this rank where we want it, or to move over here, which after the king moves to the b3 square, we now play our rook check, and the king is forced down to the next rank. So now what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the king down to this rank, and we follow the same pattern. We're going to bring our king over, king moves, now we have to play the waiting move to set up our opposition, so we'll play the rook to here. If the king moves over, we check, and the king's forced back down to this rank. So the king moves over here, and now we just use the same pattern, keep bringing the king over, and now the king is forced to play where we want it. We play the rook check, king has to move down, and now our rook guards this entire rank. The black king is stuck on the first rank, and now all we have to do is bring our white king into the action, and we'll be able to easily deliver the checkmate. So our king comes in. If the king moves here, then rook a1 is checkmate. So the king is forced to the h1 square. Our white king comes over, and now the black king is forced to concede its position. It moves over here, and now rook to a1. That's checkmate. So as you can see, there's a pretty simple pattern to winning this type of elementary rook and king versus king endgame. Just requires a little bit of practice, but once you see this pattern, the king in opposition with the black king, the white king guards these three squares, the rook delivers the final blow, and that's checkmate. So thank you for watching, and hope this helps you to better understand how to play a rook and king endgame.